Thank you for tuning in to Independent Wrestling Profiles. Today we're going to be talking to the present Matthew Grant. You're good to go?
I am now.
Okay, what belt is that?
So this is the HWE HWE Tag Team Championship. I am one half of the Tag Team Champions alongside my partner, my brother, the Reject JT Kirk. And I figured I'd show it off considering HWE's returning after a bit of a hiatus next month. So show off the gold and show off what we're going to be forever holding on to.
Well, I'm actually glad you showed off a belt immediately because doing a little bit of research, I noticed that you won a championship like immediately getting into the industry. How does that happen?
So it was a little, it's a crazy story. So shout out Death Proof Fight Club. I was the young blood champion for Death Proof, and my very first match won that championship. So how it came to be, I basically was doing what you were doing, running a podcast, getting to know a lot of the scene and creating relationships, creating opportunities for myself, which then became becoming a ref and becoming a professional wrestler. And throughout that journey, creating all those connections, I guess Chad Warhead decided to believe in me and decided to give me the opportunity to run with the championship. And honestly, man, like, was such a blast. That time in my life was really crazy. I never thought I'd be winning a championship in my first match, but it's something that happened.
So did you have any experience actually in the ring outside of training, even if it was off camera or off show? Just literally that was your first match ever you won a championship?
Yep. The only thing I did before that I can remotely think of is I did like a spot at Barrie like 2 weeks before where I got like fall away slammed by one of their like big heels, but like not like an actual match. Yeah, that was my first legit match on a show.
Were you refereeing at the time?
I was refereeing still at the time, yes.
So how did you actually start off in refereeing to get your foot in the door?
Again, another crazy story. It was like, so I was still doing the podcast at the time, and I went to a show because apparently some promoter had a beef with me, and I was like, all right, man, I just want to squash this. I ain't trying to have any drama in my life. So I went down, and the whole like production was kind of scrambling. They needed a ring announcer and they needed a referee. And I had ring announced before, so I was like, yeah, like I can do that, no problem. And they're like, nah, we're gonna have you ref. Here's a ref shirt. You got track pants on. You got this on. I'm just like bug-eyed, like deer in headlights, not knowing what to do. And honestly, like just kind of took the opportunity, did the best I could with it, and continued to grow and grow and grow until I got the opportunity to do Alpha One for the first time. And that was kind of like the slap in the face to be like, hey, you got to take this seriously.
So obviously you had a lot of involvement with wrestling before you actually got in the ring as a wrestler. How far back did that fandom begin where you actually took notice of wrestling and just let it into your life?
It's been like literally since I could remember. It's probably one of the first memories I have. Pro wrestling's been involved in my life since, again, I can remember. Video games, action figures, you name it. I was into it, and professional wrestling's done a lot for me. It's the reason why I pursue it as much as I do, because in many ways it saved my life. And it sounds very cliche, but the being able to travel, being able to perform in front of crowds, like it's stuff I've dreamt of since I was a kid. So being able to do this is like insane to me.
Was there a particular catalyst where you actually made that transition from fan to wrestling school?
Yeah, so there was always schools around in Ontario, but just being in Hamilton, it was kind of like there wasn't really anything that was incredibly local. So when Rip Impact, David Savelli, he opened up the Hamilton Pro Wrestling Academy, it was an immediate, like, we were there first day, and we were part of the first class. We were part of the first like graduates that came out of the school. I was the very first HPW student to win a championship outside of the school as well. So like that's something I always carry very much with pride, because like anytime I'm out there, it's me kind of putting over my trainer and putting over what he's taught me. And Rip's an amazing dude. He continues to provide for the scene to this day. So I want to be somebody like that for the scene going forward, and leave the scene better than I found it, like he does.
So you had said we were there day one.
My brother and I.
That's where I wanted to get to.
Actually, my brothers and I, all three of us. It was the myself, JT Kirk, David, as well as my third brother Jake, who he had a couple of matches, but he didn't really pursue it full time like myself and JT have. So very very interesting that we've all kind of rode this journey together. But yeah, JT and I have been like since day one. We've been HPW guys.
Obviously, not everybody has that kind of familial connection that helps them through. How was it sharing that journey with your brother?
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like we used to have matches in our basement where the foam belt would hang from the light and get burnt to the light because we're stupid kids, and we almost burned down our house. But no, man, like the chase this like crazy journey and like dream with him, especially, we'd have like chats at like all hours of the night talking about wanting to do this, and like it just kind of being a fantasy. And like Empire itself like started from us playing video games and like having a video game fantasy league where Empire was a thing, and we've literally brought it to life. Like it's one of those things where being able to, again, to live this out with my brothers, like I can't even put it into words. It's so special to me. And like the championships, the moments, the things we've been able to do together, like it's yeah, it's crazy, man. Like we've been doing it now, what, almost coming on our eighth year, and like we've been to out east. We're traveling all the time to Michigan, to New York. We're going out to California next month. Like we're going to Indiana on a regular basis. This the amount of travel that we've been able to do all over Ontario, all over like the province, and being able to entertain people, being able to have people like compliment us and genuinely mean it. Like that's stuff that like I used to be bullied for liking wrestling in elementary school. So like the fact that I'm now living this dream and being able to do this, especially with my brother, is like again the craziest thing.
Was that formation of the tag team, and for those who know Empire extends beyond the two of you, was that something premeditated, or was that some sort of opportunity that just kind of happened at one show, or anything like that?
So it was a storyline I had going on when I first won the open weight championship at Pro Wrestling Ontario. I was doing. I'm somebody who, when I win a championship, and I've done this actually. Now that I'm recalling it in my head, I've done this with several championships: the Youngblood Championship, the Open Weight Championship. When I was Crossbody Internet Champion, I was doing it with that as well. We've done it with the HWE Tag Team Championships. I like to take my championships and do interpromotional, cross promotional stuff. So when I was openweight champion, I was doing this storyline with Vander Cruz for No Limits Wrestling. My friend Pierre, shut up, Pierre, I love him. But he gave us the opportunity to kind of bring this Empire thing together, because JT and I always wanted to come together. We just wanted it to make sense and wanted to have a reason for it, not just to be like, oh, we're together now, yay. So it was just the big blow off match between me and Vander Cruz at this April No Limit show. And it was a no holds barred match. It was for the open weight title as well. So we made it like a big deal. And the closing of the match was Vander goes up to hit this big move on me off the ladder, like a splash. I'm laying down on the ground waiting for him to come down. Lights go off, lights come back on. Somebody's on the ladder behind him in a mask, hits him with a kendo stick. He falls off. 1, 2, 3. I pin him. It's revealed to be JT. We found a way to creatively come together and make it work. And then from there, again, I talk about cross promotional stuff. I figured, well, we formed here, we might as well take this everywhere. And that's kind of what happened with Empire. It just started at one promotion, and we've taken it everywhere we possibly go with it.
And how does it expand? How do you add new members? How does that happen?
So again, it's kind of like we don't do things in Empire unless they absolutely make sense. And we were wanting a third member for a while. We'd been like contemplating a couple of people, but there was one, and literally, I was the one who pitched it. I'd been watching her for a while because I'd been refereeing and wrestling for Crossbody. So I'd seen her grow, and that was Crystal Moon. I truly believe the potential in her was totally untapped. I think the sky's the limit when it comes to her. To this day, I truly believe she's the best unsigned female, not just in Ontario, but in Canada right now. Um, I truly believe she brought something special to the table, and she fit our vibe. I don't know what it was about us. Maybe we were a little grungy or like what it was, but like she fit that Empire vibe. So the idea was it was this like mystery PWO show they were running where nobody knew the matches, very similar to like a PWG mystery vortex. Yeah, nobody knows the matches, nobody knows what's going on. So they had the idea of like calling back to me being a referee, and they had the thought of like, oh, let's have you ref your brother's match, have you like basically hand your brother the internet championship, but like to protect the person who was champion at the time. We decided to like completely up the odds and have a third member basically be the reason why he won. And that ended up being Crystal Moon. Adding Van Landen, kind of the same deal where in PWO, Crystal Moon's become an absolute fan favorite. She's one of the top names on the card right now, former internet champion, former trios champion. She's kicking ass right now. So basically, PWO management let me know, like, hey, I think we're going to be moving her up the card. You kind of have an idea of like maybe a potential new member to fill that third spot for Empire so we can keep you guys as a trio going forward. And Van Landen, somebody I've been keeping my eyes on for a while. I've had a couple of singles matches with him, and like they were amazing. He just brings a whole different energy to Empire as well, especially when we're doing the bad guy, the heel role. He is just so animated and so extra, and I absolutely love what he brings to the table. So again, kind of a no-brainer. Like we had thrown out a couple of other names, but they didn't really fit like Van Landen did. It kind of was the same thing with Crystal Moon, where we knew when we knew. And yeah, like those were our two guys. We've had like a couple like one-off additions, but honestly, those two like fit the Empire bill. The four of us like meshed so well together. We just did like a 15-16 hour road trip, round trip, I should say, to Indiana for FEW together, and like we were so cool in the car together. Like there was no awkward vibes. We're all like just a unit, and it's like the fact that we can get along so well outside of the ring as well as inside of the ring. Just I love that about us, and I wasn't too sure like how we were all gonna mesh together all together at first. But man, it coming together and like some of the things we've got coming up as a unit, I'm so stoked for the future of Empire.
Obviously, Empire is a big part of your career, but you also do a lot of single stuff. You are the standard, which I hear through the grapevine is not the case anymore. How do you balance the time that you spend either as a singles competitor or as the leader of a pretty well-known faction here in Ontario?
See, a lot of people call me the leader, and like I do appreciate that, but I don't want to also diminish anybody's accomplishments or like the like roles of what Empire are. I look at myself more as the mouthpiece of Empire, where I do a lot of the talking. However, I don't consider myself the leader. I think all four of us are equal. I think like we all bring our own stuff to the table, and honestly, Empire is an empire without the four of us together. So I'll address that first of all. In terms of the standards, so it's very interesting. I don't know what it is, and if it's a coincidence, if it's just like me having a good brain for monikers or whatever the case may be. Whatever, anytime I come up with a cool moniker, I feel like it gets stolen from me.
Okay.
So when I first started wrestling, I was the undeniable underdog. super fun little babyface name, whatever. Ended up turning heel. Ended up like I was like a year and a half, 2 years in. I was like, I'm not an underdog anymore. I'm just going to be undeniable. Kind of ran with that for a couple of years. Really built up that moniker. And then Tessa Blanchard, when she was Impact, world champion, all that fun stuff, she starts using the moniker, and I'm like, well, somebody on TV is using it. I got to get rid of it. It's like I don't really want to have that comparison. It's the reason why we go by Empire, not the Empire. It's because there was a past stable in Ontario wrestling that was the Empire. So I tried my best to distinguish the two entities. So I go by the standard and kind of come up with a whole like cool video, cool concept. Shout out Savage Media Productions for putting that together. They are incredible. Um, have this whole cool concept, run with that for a while. Josh Alexander starts using it on Impact, or they start referring to. I can't say Alexander himself started using it. It was the commentators that started referring to him as the standard of TNA and whatnot. And I don't think I've actually ever told this story public, so you're kind of getting a little exclusive here. One day out of the blue, I got a message from Josh himself, being like, "Hey man, like I know this is your thing, but like TNA kind of just started doing it on their own. Like I hope this doesn't rub you the wrong way." Basically, like acknowledging, and it's like he didn't have to do that. I've been in cars with Josh back to when I was a podcaster, and like to watch him grow and become the performer he is and become the top guy he is in pro wrestling, to get that message and for him to go out of his way to like be like, hey, like I know this is your thing. I'm sorry that like TNA started doing this, but like I hope you're cool with it. That's respect, man. Like I to this day I tip my cap to Josh, and I have so like he's literally on the wall behind us here. That was his like first retirement show for Alpha One. I have that poster hanging up because like Josh is a true inspiration. He came back from serious shit, and he's kicking ass in pro wrestling today. So the fact that he acknowledged that and he gave me that, I guess, like tip of the cap. I was like, okay, you know what? This is your thing going forward. Let's be real. If we're talking about standards in pro wrestling, Matthew Grant to Josh Alexander, I think somebody's got the battle won, and it sure as hell ain't me. So I straight up said that to him too. I was like, if there's anybody that's a standard in pro wrestling, it's you. So like, yeah, that's yours, man. Like, hell, that's all yours. So hence why we go by the present now. And that being, there's two different meanings to it. A gift to like a company's roster or a show or whatever the case may be, or the now of pro wrestling. So yeah,
That's a lot of respect.
long-winded story, but yeah.
That's awesome. So, what are some goals moving forward now? You've actually wrestled in quite a few places now. You've done factions, tag teams, singles. You've won a number of championships. Where do
Yeah,
you go
yeah.
from here?
Honestly, man, it's just continuing to grow the brand, continuing to branch out to any other state, any other province, any other promotion, wrestle anybody I possibly can. Like, I just want to be better than the day I was before. I love professional wrestling, and I would just want to do anything I can to add to it. Even like for those who know me, like it's not just the like art of pro wrestling, like the in-ring stuff that I care about. It's the out-of-ring stuff. I do a lot of graphic work, a lot of social media work for promotions now. I just want to elevate pro wrestling as a whole as much as I can. And there's no like obviously there's loyalty to certain promotions, and there's always going to be like shout out PWO. That is my home for life. I will forever call that home my home promotion. But like I'm not gonna like play the politic game. Like I'm just here to benefit the world of professional wrestling, help my peers get better, help the fellow promoters get better, and like grow the scene. Because like without that scene, there's nothing for us. And in terms of like goals, like I'd be lying to say like a C4 wrestling or an Alpha One isn't on that, because like those are the peaks in Canada and Ontario. Like I want to get out east to love pro wrestling. I want to get to IWS in Montreal. There's like the top promotions in the States. Like you talk like the AEWs, you talk the Dreamwaves, you talk the GCWs. I want to travel just anywhere and everywhere I possibly can and just continue to grow and continue to get better at this, man.
Are there any dream opponents that you just got on the bucket list that, whether realistic or not, just like you just have to get in the ring with them?
So for a long time, it was the guy who I first connected with at an independent wrestling show, and that was Ethan Page. Page was and still is to this day a friend of mine. Um, it's been wild to see what he's been able to do over the last couple of years, especially. But when I first went to an Alpha One show, in the crowd, just hanging out as a fan, and he went out of his way to like have an interaction with me during the match, and it's something like as a fan I never forget because as a performer, especially now, I'm like, that's what I want to do for a fan going forward is give them that interaction that they never forget that like unlocks like a core memory for them. So Paige has done that for me on several occasions. I mentioned traveling with Josh. I used to travel with Josh and Paige to like AAW, AIW, all over the States and watch them kill it when I was a podcaster. So to see what he's become now is insane. And like, I wanted that match for so long. Probably not gonna happen at this point, unfortunately. Kurt, Mr. NXT champion, absolutely killing it. Literally, as we record this, his theme just dropped on Spotify this morning, which was like the craziest notification to get. Um, yeah, no, it's wild, and I wanted that one for a while, but I don't think that's in the works anymore. And honestly, for the best, I want him to get all the money. I want him to get all the fame and glory and everything he deserves because that man deserves it. You want to talk about a dude that grinded and earned that opportunity? He has done so. He's bet on himself so many times, and that's why I continue to bet on myself as a guy like that. So, shout out Paige. I will forever call him a dream opponent. Don't think it's ever going to happen, but who knows? Technically, I guess it did happen once upon a time during the pandemic. You can go back in the Impact archives as myself and Travis Moore as the Schmoes challenged the North for the tag team championships in Impact Wrestling. That was something that happened once upon a time. So technically it happened. But I think literally everything I did in that match I did with Josh. So I don't even think I touched Paige at all. So um, the other dream match, it was supposed to happen. And this one is definitely realistic. He's an Impact wrestler, and he's one of my best friends. And that's Aiden Prince. It was supposed to happen about a year ago for Crossbody, and very last minute, he ended up getting pulled by Impact for a taping, which broke my heart at the time. And I was devastated, to be honest with you. But I also don't know if I was ready for that match yet. I ended up going to have a match with Speedball on a match that I literally my favorite match of last year. Go out of your way to check that out. Crossbody gave me a tremendous amount of opportunities that I'm very, very grateful for, that being one of them. Yeah, no, I'm very proud of that match, but I want that match with Princey so bad, and I know we're going to get it soon. But yeah, those two are the ones that stand out to me. In terms of tag team dream matches, I have to throw this one out there because I'm such a huge fan of both of them. Matt Cardona and Brian Myers. I would love to have Empire versus major players as a match, maybe even for these bad boys in the future. Who knows, HWE? If you can make that happen, I would love you forever. But no, in terms of dream matches, those are definitely my like top ones. I could throw out like local guys that I would love to have a match with as well, but in terms of dream matches, those are definitely the ones.
If there's one thing that anybody who follows the industry should know is that crazy things happen all the time, and never say never.
Hey, I never thought I'd be able to tell you that we won these off the Bollywood boys, but here we are. So
exactly right, and you were supposed to have a match with Aiden Prince, that didn't happen, and you have a match with Speedball Mike Bailey, and nobody is going to say that that's not an amazing match to have anyway.
Yep.
let's transition quickly outside of the ring. So, yes, you are involved very heavily in a lot of graphic design, a lot of editing, but what sort of things do you do, or how did you get really involved in that?
So since the podcast days, I was very much like a component of like designing my own stuff and like I don't know. I'm somebody who hates waiting on people, so like I'd rather just do my own stuff and not have to wait on other people's timelines or other people's laziness, whatever the case may be. I don't know, but I'm just always prided myself on doing my own work for the most part. So when it came to being a pro wrestler, kind of the same thing, and then all of a sudden it was Rip Impact started running shows with HPW, and he was like needed a guy. I started doing work with him. Some of the early, like first year of PWO's work, I did that stuff before Savage Media took over. Um, to this day, I'm doing Combat One out in Michigan. I'm doing all their graphic design. I'm helping out with like Norfolk County Championship Wrestling stuff. I'm helping out with HWE's stuff as well. So like, as much as I can dip my toes into to learn as much as I can, because at the end of the day, that's what I want to make a living off of this. And I know for me, because of the size I am, that might not be as a performer. So if I can learn as many trades as I can to make myself as useful as possible going forward, then let's do it. So in terms of graphic design, it was just like, hey, like if I can help out and make your show look a little bit better, then let's do that. Like if I can make your social media presence that much better online, let's do that. If I can help out edit your show so you have content going online so that way people can see your stuff, let's do that. It's just a matter of, again, like trying to help people grow as much as possible because not growing the scene is a detriment to everybody.
Did you have a background in this stuff, or did you literally just self-taught in order to fill a necessity?
So when I first started, I self-taught myself. I did end up going back to school, getting a GED, and graphic design was like some of the stuff I was working heavily with throughout that process. So, but no, honestly, a lot of the stuff I've done is self-taught, which is pretty wild when you look at it, because like, yeah, anything you've seen come out from HWE, Combat One in the last like year and a bit, anything you've seen on my social media for the most part, or Empire social media, is done by me. So I take a lot of pride in putting my best product out I possibly can, and hopefully it's not hopefully it's not half-assed.
What other kind of things do you like to do on your free time?
I'm big in video games. Absolutely, like I'm still staring at two Switches, an Xbox, a PS5. This is literally like my gaming PC that I'm using for this interview. So like big into video games. I always have been. I think it's kind of like a mental escape and very much away what pro wrestling is as a live aspect. I take video games as like my chill out mental aspect where it's just like I enjoy kind of zoning out the world and just having a few hours of video games where it's just like don't have to worry about anything else but having a good time. Especially growing up too, I talked about my brothers. Like we would play all the wrestling games together. We'd play games online as well. So it's just like video games has always been a huge part of what I've been able to, or what I do in my free time. Especially right now, like with the PC that I have, I've been doing a lot of modding on the new WWE 2K game. So that's been a lot of fun. Yeah, I'd say video games is a heavy amount of like my free time outside of like the graphic design, the video editing, and the other stuff that I do. Video games takes up a lot of that time.
Yeah, I actually popped in on one of your streams just the other day where you were streaming mods on the new WWE. And honestly, some of the stuff that you did was fantastic. And I don't know if you want to plug your Twitch channel. I'll definitely put the link in the description. But
Literally everything is like, where is it? Right there. My handle is at Matthew Grant First Days Before. You can find me on Facebook X. I almost said it, the other name, but yeah, Facebook X, Instagram, Twitch. I try my best to keep everything under that handle. That way, you can easily find me across all platforms, as many should tip to newer wrestlers out there.
So, video games then, what are some of your all time favorites? We got to know.
Ooh, that's a big one. I think when you say like the wrestling games in particular, I'll give you the generic answer. It's like WWF No Mercy or Here Comes the Pain. Those are like the top tier wrestling games. 2K24, I gotta say, I'm having a blast with the game. The gameplay is pretty fun. We're getting there. We're getting there. If we could work on the online servers, that would be awesome. Um, but yeah, no, in terms of wrestling games, that's that. Outside of wrestling, oh man. I love myself some Halo. Halo is a huge part of my childhood. I remember being very young, and playing Halo with my brothers online all the time. Any sports games really, like the NBA, the NHL, Madden games. Like I play a lot of sports games. Um, man, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. Oh man, I have to throw out the Spider-Man games. If you haven't played those Spider-Man games on the PlayStation, baby, those are go so good, so good. I recently just finished the second one. One of my favorite games of all time. Just so well done. The graphics are chef's kiss. Ghost of Tsushima was a fantastic game as well. Going to like recent games that I've played. Yeah, man, I'm just sports games are mainly my jam, but yeah, Halo is just I have to throw out Halo as like an OG classic because that's such a good game.
Let's just do a little hypothetical here. If you had an opportunity to talk to a younger version of yourself or another rookie that's starting out, what would be maybe the most valuable advice that you would give them in this industry?
Oh man. You there's so many like different pieces of advice that you're gonna get from so many different people that maybe sometimes you're not going to really take that in. But I think what I would tell younger me or like anybody that's starting up is take all of that advice in. And whether it's like you follow it or you don't, still take it in as like you never know who you're going to learn from. Um, you never know when you're going to get that opportunity and who that opportunity is going to come from. I mean, for a personal example, somebody that I'd love to put over right now that's been helping me out a lot with opportunity right now is a guy like Mark House. And he's somebody who like to be honest with you, like when I first met House, he was kind of just like a guy in passing, and we've grown and like we've got a chance to see each other grow, and like he's somebody that's always looked out for me in one way or the other, but like especially in the last little while, like he's the reason why Empire's out in Indiana. He's the reason why like we're getting the opportunity to travel a little bit more and things are coming up a little bit more in the future because a guy like that sees us putting in that time and effort and puts his belief in us to put his stamp of approval on us so that way we can be able to expand more. So somebody like that, like I wouldn't expect to be such a component, such a help to what we can do in the future, but like you never know where that's going to come from. And those same people you might meet on the way up, you're going to meet on the way down. Treat people the way you want to be treated, man. And I think that's the biggest thing is treat people the way you want to be treated because the amount of disrespect I see to certain people and like the politicking and like just the stupid stuff that goes on pro wrestling. Like I'm sure you could talk to any pro wrestler and they tell you like they go through days where they want to quit this stuff. And I do that too as well. But like you gotta realize that like there's so much positive that outweighs the negative, and you got to just control what you control, and again, treat people the way you want to be treated. So, bit of a ramble there, but yeah.
How would you describe to someone who is going into a match that features Matt Grant what they are about to see? Or what you would like them to take away from it?
So for me, I just want them to know that I am going out of my way to make sure that they remember something that I did that night. Whether it is me making myself look like an absolute fool, whether it is me interacting with somebody, whether it is me taking a stupid move from somebody or doing a stupid move because I'm kind of dumb sometimes. Um, know that whatever I'm doing isn't to get myself over or to get my opponent over. It's to put on a show for the crowd. That's what we're there for. And I want to be like that little Matt Grant that watched Ethan Page have an interaction with him and has that memory forever locked in his brain. Like, I want fans to walk away, be like, oh, that Matt Grant, he was a piece of shit, but man, I enjoyed his work. Or like, that Matt Grant, like, he went out of his way to give me a high five. That was cool of him. Like, little, even like our interactions at the merch table, like, you may think of that as like, you know, just another person, but that person could be going through some serious shit. And if you take the time out of your day to like greet them properly, have a serious conversation with them, get to know them a little bit, like that's your fan base is what gives you the opportunity to create your brand, to create your living. And like whether it's in the ring, whether it's at intermission, whether it's wherever we are, I'd never take that shit for granted that like the fans are giving us that chance to be larger than life superstars. And I'll never be that person that shoos away a fan or like is disrespectful to anybody because I want them to know that like this is for them.
Awesome. Thank you so much again for joining me for this conversation. I really appreciate it. And do you have anything coming up that you just want to highlight before we sign off?
So I'll give you my upcoming schedule here. That way y'all know what's going down. So um, August 31st, I will be at GCW. I believe it's Kinmount Fair, if I'm not mistaken. Check GCW's social media. Check my social media at Matthew Grant's first days before. I'll keep you updated with where I'm at. MWO debut coming up on September 7th. I have not wrestled in the Niagara area for quite some time. So excited to be back out there for MWO. I've heard a lot of great things. They've had some fun shows, so that's awesome. PWO on the 14th, my home promotion. I'm not sure what we'll be doing yet, but we had a crazy trios ladder match on the last show that unfortunately went to a no contest due to Mark Shaw and Devin Parkside stealing the championships. So I'm sure we're going to find out what's going forward with that. We're going to get those trios championships back and become 3-time champs. So stay tuned for PWO. And then a lot of chaos on the horizon with IWF in New York and HWE in Mississauga on the same day, September 21st. Double shot for Empire. I will be hopefully a part of the Combat One show in California coming up on the 22nd. A lot of chaos going on with Combat One. I got chokeslammed off a balcony through 2 tables by Cruel on the last show. So who knows what's in the future for me when it comes to Combat One. And then just a lot of cool stuff on the horizon in the future. Just stay tuned to my social media. I'm very, very blessed to be traveling and to be honestly, I'm looking at my schedule right now. Like, I don't have a free weekend. I don't really think until December at this point. So very, very thankful to have the schedule I do. But obviously, if you want to see me on your local professional wrestling show, tell your promoters, let them know that I will travel. Empire will travel. We will go all over the damn place to show why we are Ontario's most decorated faction, why JT and I are the best brother tag team in Canada.
Well, you heard the present. Check him out and tune in with us again another time. Have a great one.